using that terminology as pharmacists, using the medicinal values of plants to help heal our people. And that's a science that today is still being explored, the naturopathic science. And many of the medicines that have been synthesized in today's world originate from the original naturopathic medicines of our people. So that's how that compares. If we use the right terminology, then the comparison comes very, very clear. But if you don't use that terminology, it's like you're using some old wives' medicinal recipe to heal yourself. But you have to look at it in a scientific manner. They have thousands of years of practice, which equates to methodical, systematic research in academia today. So they've done all of that through handing down to their young people the value of the plants and what it's used for medicinally. And that's what I think that's the right way of comparing it, by using not by separating it as a home remedy, but as a scientific method that has evolved through the centuries.
Yeah, the women were engaged in basically all aspects of the community life in terms of resource procurement. They created the basketry, they gathered the raw materials for making nets, for making baskets, for the medicines. We call them the cedar mats. Very involved in that type of activity. And I think they actually made the nets once they made the twine for them. And yeah, it was pretty much a role sharing where men and women worked as a team. Communities worked as a united group. It wasn't just a one-person operation. You'd get a group of women who were weaving and basketry and gathering.
Well, there's many different kinds of medicine people. Let me say it this way. If I was to use the modern day example of, you would have a ambulance driver who has training in St. John's first aid or whatever, first of all you have a fireman, then you have the ambulance driver, then you have at the hospital an intern, and then you have a GP, and then you have the specialist. So at least 5, and then the RN as well, so six levels. We had that as well, and we still today have that.
Men and women who wanted to be doctors, people who knew how to set bones, people who knew what plants to use to heal. So healers and ritualists in our community, pre-contact, huge role. They're the ones who brought to us the ceremonies for when the baby's born. What do? So it's those medicine people who bring the rituals and the medicines to those moments. Birth, death, coming of age. People want to help someone heal because their mental health isn't what it should be. Then they have the rituals to do that.
My grandmother was a basket person. Again, Lizzie, Elizabeth Roberts, was not only a basket person, she did medicines as well. And until we went to public schools, and I think my brother and I were 15 and 17 before we went to Juanita Doctor. She always had something brewing, and yeah, we just never went to the doctor until we went to public school. And that was before like the golf course and Pacific Spirit Park. And I used to go with her and gather her plants and her barks and her basketry, you know, roots and barks for her basketry, but also with her medicine.
I learned from my mom. I was in residential school and until I think I was about 10. And then after that, I think there was only about 14 houses here on the lower bench. There was a few up around Marine Drive. And she used barks and roots as her medicine, so I'd go with her. And then later, as she got older, she couldn't dig or get the bark off the tree, so I started doing it for her, and then we'd go home and make medicine. She'd show me how to prepare it, and then it went into the pot, and she made it and drank it herself, or she made it for somebody else. That's how I learned. It was fun. Well, okay, it's not just her though, because in our house, as I said, Dad is Musqueam, Mom is Stalo, so he would have his way of making medicine, and so later on when when she couldn't go out anymore because she was getting older, I'd do it for her. And then when she passed, I'd go out with my dad, my kids, and myself. We'd go out with them. And he used to play all sorts of tricks on them, you know, get them to, oh, this is so good. He'd have something chewing away on it, you know, and my little kids would be watching him and listening. We want some too, Grandpa. And so he'd give it to them, and it would be really bitter or something. And he'd just laugh and think it was a big joke to do that to them. So, but it was good medicine he was giving them.
It's so different from when my grandmother harvested. You could just go into the forest and gather your cedar. Now we have to get permission to go into the forest. Or now today we go into the log sorts and harvest our yellow cedar. So we don't have to go way up the mountain 4x4ing. And I think it's sad that we have to do that. You know, we can't go harvest like in our forest here, or else we'll get fined. But I'm willing to take that risk. Yeah.
Well, it's not only the medicine, you know, you think about it, how far we have to go to get cedar bark. And at one time, the cedar root baskets, the women here made them, but you know, you can't go out, you have to travel miles now to get good cedar roots and barks. The UBC research forest, yeah, is where we go now. Yeah. So I mean, that's a long way to travel. And not everyone has the time or the ability to do it, and then you have to get permission to do it, because if you go somewhere else, you could end up in jail, I think, for just going to strip trees of the bark. It's not looked on kindly by parks or by the general public. I get some pretty strange looks when I'm out gathering. They're wondering what I'm doing, and you know, some people will stop and ask me, and I explain to them what I'm doing. There's also some people who think I shouldn't be doing it either.
Sad, but even like we talked about our cedar bark, how my grandpa would say they'd go in the bush and Want to build a canoe? Let's go get a log. We can't do that. We want to make cedar shakes for the longhouse. We can't do that. Got to get a permit for that, a permit for that. And it's sad because concrete, it's turned into a concrete jungle. Technology's taken over everything. And I think, I don't know the word, but there's something in the air that we're losing our plants. I don't know how to say it in Indian. I don't know how to say it in English. But if we go walk in the bush, I can tell you, oh, that's for eczema, you know, or that'd be good for the bee stings. Yeah. You know, or my grandma would take my older cousins when we were younger. They'd be, this is what you need for when you have your cycle. You got to take that medicine, go make tea. So little things like that that disappeared.